Alright, pushing forward on the stairs. It's looking pretty good. I'm starting now on the corner piece that's going to cap this scabby, unfinished edge. The masking tape will both help me keep glue off the alder veneer on the stringer and line up the first trim piece. I've got to just say this about clamps. You hear guys say that you could never have enough clamps. And I think that's hard for some people to comprehend. Why do you need 100 clamps of the same type? I even remember when I bought all of these spring clamps at the Home Depot, the cashier looking at me sort of like, what could you possibly do with so many clamps? Well, it's precisely for times like these when you pretty much need a clamp for every free spot, because it's totally crucial that I get good adhesion of these strips that I'm bending around this curve. This corner cap has taken an entire day to do, but it looks great and I'm very happy and proud of how it turned out, especially seeing the individual strips all glued tight with no gaps. Now it's time for the mammoth post bracket to get bolted down into its final place. Now back to woodworking. Temporarily setting the bottom two shoes, it's time to start gluing and nailing down the rest of them. There are gaps left over that will need to be trimmed out later. The rounded piece that wraps around the metal post bracket is called the volute. I didn't know that that's what it's called before this project, but it's comprised of several layers of 1/8 inch MDF with a final layer of MDF with an alder veneer. I had some trouble on this one, but luckily I had my friend Tyler standing by to hold it in this critical moment. Once removed, I noticed that it had sprung back and was not the right curve anymore. Using some baling wire, I tightened it back up to the proper dimension before gluing on the final layer and veneer. And once again, out with the clamps. The veneer I covered with masking tape to make sure I didn't drizzle any glue on it. My hope is that once I cut the wires, it won't spring back into the incorrect shape. I'll let this dry a while I work on trimming out the gaps on the stairs. Alright, it looks good while it's under tension. Now let's cut the wires and see how it looks. It hardly even budged when I cut that second wire. One more curved piece to trim out the top of the volute. Not gluing it to the volute right now, just using the volute as a form so that I can make all the necessary cuts and shaping to the small piece before gluing it on. The volute is 100% held on with construction adhesive. Now I can set the bottom two shoes and move on to the newel post and handrail. The handrail I made over 3 years ago when we built the house, so now I'm able to reuse it. It was one of the more difficult wood pieces I had ever made before, so shortening it to the proper length really feels just wrong, like cutting off my arm or something. My steel post was not perfectly plumb, so I've made these blocks as shims to put the outer wood post right where it needs to be. These shims are held in place with spray adhesive. To make this joint between the existing handrail and the new elbow just as solid as possible, I'm cutting and gluing in 2 biscuits. This is my painter, Rosario. He's going to take what I've made, which is hopefully any good, and take it to the 95% done mark. I was not brave enough to tackle the staining and lacquering of the stairs. I've spent way too much time to bring it to this point. I don't really want to mess it up doing the one thing I know pretty much nothing about doing right. I mean, sure, I've stained things, but nothing with so much time invested on the front end. Rosario is insisting that I remove all the previous stain and clear coat from the handrail, so I'm doing my best to get that ready before he's finished with the stairs and needs to continue on the handrail. The balusters, or spindles as some people call them, need to be properly spaced and plumb. So I've made myself a template for laying them out on the shoe and then using a laser level to project up to the handrail the precise location where I need to drill to insert the balusters. I can't believe it's finally finished. What a project. What a journey. I don't know if I'm happier to finish this one or to move on to something else.